Subscribe to the Prepper Historian now, because what we're covering today sits at the crossroads of military history, logistics, and real-world survival knowledge that still matters. If you've ever wondered how armies fed men without smoke, flames, or noise giving away their position, this episode is for you. Stay with me for the next minute, because this isn't some novelty gadget story. This is about a deceptively simple technology that kept soldiers alive, conserved fuel, and solved problems modern field kitchens still struggle with. Once you understand how the fireless cooking box worked, you'll never look at food preparation in warfare or preparedness the same way again. For most of history, cooking meant fire, and fire meant risk. Smoke could reveal positions. Flames consumed scarce fuel. Cooking required time, guards, and exposure. Yet by the late 19th and early 20th centuries, armies quietly adopted a solution that removed fire from the equation almost entirely. The fireless cooking box, sometimes called a haybox cooker, did not look revolutionary. That was the point. It worked because it was boring, reliable, and brutally efficient. Why armies needed a silent way to cook food in the first place? On campaign, feeding soldiers was always more dangerous than fighting. Fires attracted enemy artillery, scouts, and aircraft. During the Boer War and later World War I, British and European armies learned quickly that even a single cooking fire could draw lethal attention. Fuel was also a constant problem. Wood had to be gathered. Coal had to be transported. Every pound of fuel took up space better used for ammunition or medical supplies. The fireless cooking box addressed all of this by shifting cooking from active heat to retained heat. Food was brought briefly to a boil, then sealed inside an insulated container where it continued cooking without flames. No smoke, no light, no noise. Once sealed, the box could be hidden in a trench, wagon or dugout while the food finished itself. So let's talk about how the fireless cooking box actually worked in practical terms. At its core, the fireless cooking box relied on insulation, not technology. A sturdy wooden or metal box would be lined with hay, straw, felt, wool, sawdust or, later on, cork, and even newspaper. Inside, you'd find a tightly lidded pot, usually cast iron or heavy steel, that had already been heated up. Soldiers or camp cooks would boil stew, porridge, beans or meat for a short time, typically about 5 to 10 minutes. Once boiling, the pot was sealed up and placed deep inside the insulation, then covered completely. The retained heat stayed above the critical cooking temperature for hours. Tough cuts of meat would soften. Grains absorbed liquid, and beans cooked without burning. The process was very forgiving, which really mattered under battlefield stress. Overcooking was almost impossible, and undercooking was rare if the initial boiling was done properly. Now, why was this method especially valuable for soldiers in the field? Beyond stealth, the real advantage was labour efficiency. One cook could prepare meals for dozens of men with minimal supervision. Once the pot went into the box, attention could shift to other tasks. This was important during night operations or artillery-heavy periods, when manpower was stretched thin. Fuel savings were dramatic. Contemporary military manuals noted reductions of up to 70% in fuel usage. For armies operating far from supply lines, this wasn't a convenience, it was survival. Less fuel transported meant faster movement and, fewer vulnerable supply convoys. There are, historical examples of armies that relied on fireless cooking. The British Army formally experimented with fireless cookers during the early 20th century, especially for transport wagons and mobile units. German field kitchens used similar heat retention principles, combining insulated containers with centralized boiling points. During World War I, trench units often used improvised versions made from ammunition crates packed with straw. Civilian governments noticed too. During World War I food rationing campaigns, civilians were encouraged to use hay boxes at home to conserve coal. The same logic applied everywhere. Heat once, waste nothing. The same principles really do apply directly to modern preparedness and survival. This isn't just some museum piece. The fireless cooking box is still, honestly, one of the most practical, low-tech survival tools ever devised. Anyone can build one, whether it's with a cooler, a box, or even a backpack filled with insulating material. The key steps remain unchanged. Bring your food to a rolling boil, seal it tightly, insulate it fully, and then just leave it undisturbed. In a power outage, fuel shortage, or off-grid scenario, this method allows you to cook rice, beans, stews, and even bread with minimal energy. One small propane burn can produce a full meal hours later. For preppers, this stretches fuel supplies dramatically. For historians, it shows how past solutions still outperform many modern gadgets. Why did this technology disappear from common use despite its effectiveness? The fireless cooking box didn't fail. It was, replaced by abundance. Cheap fuel, electric appliances, and centralized kitchens made efficiency less urgent. Military logistics shifted towards speed and standardized rations. Yet the principles never stopped being valid. In fact, modern thermal cookers sold today are direct descendants of these early designs, just wrapped in stainless steel and marketing language. So, what does this tell us about forgotten military knowledge? The fireless cooking box is a reminder that the most effective tools are often quiet, invisible, and overlooked. It fed soldiers without announcing their presence. It conserved resources without complex machinery. It worked because it respected physics rather than fighting it. For serious historians, this device reveals how armies adapted not just weapons, but daily life to the realities of war. For survivalists, it's a lesson in resilience through simplicity. If this kind of deep, practical history is why you're here, subscribe to The Prepper Historian, share this episode with someone who values real-world knowledge, and keep these forgotten lessons alive.